Ireland is a country full of myth and magic and tales that just stretch through time. In today's podcast, I'm going to share a few of those with you, as well as the places you can visit so you can actually touch Ireland's mythology. It's never too early to begin your own Ireland vacation planning, whether you're traveling next year or in 5 years. And I have the resources to help you plan every step. The Planning Your Ireland Vacation series here on the Traveling in Ireland podcast begins back in episode 125 and guides you step by step to create your own amazing Ireland vacation. To see the entire series in order, you can find at irelandfamilyvacations.com/planning, PLANNING. Irish mythology is so rich with stories that have been passed down through the generations, featuring a mix of heroic tales and tragic love stories and epic battles. Now, these stories are so deeply rooted in Irish culture, they've influenced literature, art, and even modern popular culture. So you're going to hear about a lot of these people and places even during your visits to Ireland today. They are almost still top of mind and something that is not forgotten. They're really celebrated for the richness of the stories, the complexity, and the way they reflect the ancient beliefs and values of Ireland. And like I said, they really do carry over into the modern day. So I've chosen a few of these ancient people and stories to share with you today, as well as the places where you can encounter them while you are touring through the country. So I'm starting with probably one of the strongest female figures that you're going to find in Ireland, and that is Queen Maeve. Now, Queen Maeve was the Queen of Connacht and the central character almost in the tale of the cattle raid of Cooley, Tanba Cuilne. Hopefully I've said that right. And in that story, Maeve instigates a war with the entire province of Ulster. So she's in Connacht, which is the kind of the northwesterly counties of Ireland. And then Ulster is the most northerly part of Ireland. So all of Northern Ireland, Donegal, Cavan, and County Monaghan. So those northerly 9 counties. And she instigates a war with the province of Ulster to capture the brown bull of Cooley. This was a prized animal, and by owning this bull, it would actually make her wealth equal to that of her husband. So this was kind of the epic power struggle battle, if you will. And it just, I don't know, it's really a powerful story to read and to learn about. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in just a minute, but Maeve was really probably one of those figures that really demonstrates the maternal strength that you found in Ireland, and it's quite fascinating. So anyway, if you want to find out more about Maeve, you can visit present-day County Roscommon at Rathcrone, and that is where her seat of power was said to be. And then her burial tomb is said to be on the top of Knocknarea in County Sligo. Now, legend says that she was buried standing with her spear and ready to fight. This is an absolutely beautiful area. It kind of overlooks from the top of that. You can see obviously out to the ocean. You look down over Carrowmore Megalithic Cemetery, which I'll actually be talking about a bit more later on in this podcast. And there are some beautiful, beautiful walks up there. County Sligo is highly overlooked and one of my favorite counties to visit. So definitely, if you're following that wild Atlantic Way and you're up in Donegal and heading south, you're going right by it. Definitely worth a stop. Now, the next character I'm going to tell you about has a connection to Queen Maeve. and the cattle raid of Cooley, and that was Cuchulainn. So tales of Cuchulainn are filled with feats of extraordinary strength and tremendous bravery. He was actually endowed with supernatural abilities because his heritage was rather divine, as he was the son of the god Lok and the sister of the king of Ulster. So he had the royalty on one side and the god on the other, and that made him incredibly powerful. He was a central character in the cattle raid of Cooley and was actually at one point of it the sole defender of the province of Ulster against Queen Maeve. And he's just he was a really prolific warrior, I guess. And so you're going to find him in a lot of locations in Ireland just because of his strength and his power. The easiest place to kind of come in contact with Cuchulainn is in the General Post Office in Dublin. And while he really didn't do anything in Dublin, you're going to find a really beautiful statue there of him. And it's a symbol of the Irish struggle for independence. So if you're in Dublin, do check that out. Otherwise, you're going to find probably the strongest presence of Cuchulainn in County Louth. Now, this is considered to be the birthplace of him, and that would be around the Dundalk area. And then you also have the Cooley Peninsula there, and that, the cattle raid of Cooley, the Cooley Peninsula. So a lot of the key battles of that were fought in that area. And then Carlingford Mountain, which is also right there, is where Cuchulainn is said to have tied himself to a standing stone so he could die facing his enemies. So just kind of gives you chills when you think of that picture in your head. So to go a little deeper into Cuchulainn and the cattle raid of Cooley, you really want to visit Dundalk and County Louth and kind of immerse yourself in that area. The third character I want to tell you about is one that is probably relatively well known, and that is Finn McCool. So he was a leader known for his strength and wisdom. And while many people associate him with building the Giant's Causeway in Antrim in Northern Ireland, probably the thing that he's best known for in Ireland involves the salmon of knowledge, which was a fish that would grant infinite wisdom to whoever ate it. And he was granted that knowledge almost by accident. So if you're intrigued by that, I definitely recommend you check out stories about the salmon of knowledge in Ireland. It's really a great tale. So to come in contact with Finn McCool, like I said, Irish folklore will take you up to the Giant's Causeway in County Antrim of Northern Ireland. You could also enjoy a boat ride on the River Boyne, and that is mainly in County Meath, just kind of outside of Dublin a short way, where the salmon of knowledge is said to be to have been caught. And Ben Bulben, back up in County Sligo, is said to have been the site of a boar hunt following the pursuit of Dermot and Grania, which is a whole nother story involving Finn McCool. So definitely quite a few stories about this leader of ancient Ireland. Another story that is really well known in Ireland is Tír na nÓg. Now, this in a way is tied in with Finn McCool as well, because it involves his son Oisin. Now, Oisin, it's Oisin. See, I'm questioning myself now. Anyway, his father was Finn McCool, and he encountered Niamh one day while hunting. And Niamh was a princess from Tír na nÓg, or the land of eternal youth. And she invited Oisin to return with her so they could live happily ever after. So there's your love story there. But after many, many years in the land of eternal youth, Oisin became homesick and wanted to return to Ireland. So Niamh warned him not to touch the ground when he went back. He was to remain on his horse. Well, unfortunately, he got back, his saddle broke, he fell from his horse, and he broke the spell of Tir na Nog. And it aged him rapidly, and he obviously became an old man and did not make it back to the land of eternal youth. So unfortunately, Tir na Nog is not a real location and is often described as an island to the far west of Ireland across the sea. However, there are a few locations that kind of have been symbolically linked to this mythical land. The first locations that are super easy to get to are the islands and the sea beyond the west of Ireland, often considered a gateway to the other world. And the Aran Islands off of the coast of Counties Clare and Galway, as well as that wild western edge of Connemara, they both have kind of the symbolic links to Tir na Nog. Another thing you can look for are ancient burial mounds. These are referred to as she mounds or fairy mounds and are often thought to be the entrances to the fairy realm. So a couple of easy to reach spots from Dublin are Newgrange and Lough Crew, and both of those are in the Boyne Valley. You'll find plenty of the earthen mounds as well as the larger and more intricate burial chambers as well. And then if you can handle the often rough ride out to Skellig Michael, even though this area has nothing to do physically with Tir na Nog, the mystical qualities and the isolation of it have led some people to maybe associate those places a little bit. So definitely worth the boat ride if you can handle it and you're visiting during the season that those rides are open. The last tale, I guess, that I'm going to share is the Children of Lear. Now, this is one of the most famous Irish myths, and it tells the story of the 4 children of King Lear who are transformed into swans by their jealous stepmother, and they're cursed to wander the lakes of Ireland for 900 years. So you've got kind of all the pieces of your classic fairy tale there, the doting father and the evil stepmother and the curse, right? So for the Children of Lear, there are actually quite a few places that you can come more in contact with this tale. The first is Lake, I'm really gonna butcher this one, Deravara, I think is how you say it. And this is in County Westmeath. This is traditionally considered to be the first place the children were sent after being transformed into swans, and their first 300 years were spent here. The next 300 years of their isolation was the most difficult part of their journey, and it was spent in the Sea of Moyle. Now, this is located between the northeastern coast of Ireland and the southwestern coast of Scotland, so a very inhospitable place for much of the year. And then the final 300 years of their curse were spent on Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland. This is the largest lake in Ireland. It's just south of the Causeway Coast, just to the west of Belfast. It's a really beautiful area to settle in and enjoy a bit of time. The story concludes on the island of Inishglora, which is a remote island off the coast of County Mayo, where the Children of Lear were released from their curse. And if you're staying in Dublin, the Garden of Remembrance, which is up O'Connell Street, if you happen to be staying at the Castle Hotel, it's right across the street. Beautiful, small garden dedicated to those who have served Ireland in some way with the fight for freedom. And in there is a stunning sculpture of the Children of Lear. So if you happen to be up that way on O'Connell Street, it's definitely worth a wee wander. And then I'm going to finish with the Sidhe, or the wee folk, the fae, the fairies. Now this is a really broad world. This includes leprechauns, fairies, banshees, basically any otherworldly creature in Ireland kind of falls under the Sidhe. These supernatural beings are often seen as remnants of ancient deities or nature spirits, or even inhabitants of the other world, or the underworld, if you will. So starting with leprechauns, because those are probably the most common fairy that people know of in relation to Ireland. So a little bit about leprechauns. They are a solitary fairy, and as we know, they're associated with shoemaking and pots of gold hidden at the end of the rainbow. They're said to be quite deceptive and cunning, and will do anything to protect their treasure. You can see the world from a leprechaun's point of view at the National Leprechaun Museum in Dublin, and you'll also get to hear some of the amazing Irish fairy tales and tales of mythology there. So if you are interested in that, I highly recommend a visit. And when we are looking at fairies, like I said, they come in various forms. So you have the tiny pixie-like creatures that, we all like to think of as fairies being all sweet and sprinkling fairy dust. But then you also have banshees and pukas, which are shape-shifting spirits, and the dullahan, which are headless horsemen. So all of those kind of fall under the fairies. So they can be kind and helpful, or vengeful and dangerous. It really depends on who you are and how they are treated. So the term Sidhe refers to both the fairies themselves and the places they inhabit, such as the mounds, the hills, the ancient burial sites, those things that are considered to be portals to the underworld. And throughout Ireland, you're going to encounter these earthen ring forts. They're often called fairy forts. Very interestingly, if you're on one of the new wide motorways and for some reason it takes a weird bend, most likely that was put in there because they didn't want to disturb a fairy mound. Like I said, these old traditions are still, they still are alive and well in Ireland. People will not disturb a fairy mound. They will not disturb the ancient burial mounds. And whether it's a respect for the history or a respect for the fairies, you just do not bother them. There's also fairy rings. These are mushroom circles that, they'll just almost appear by magic in a perfectly circular form, just out of nowhere. So these places are considered sacred to the fairies. Disturbing them is believed to bring bad luck or to provoke the wrath of the fairies, and you just don't want to do that. A few of our favorite fairy spots include Loch Gur in County Limerick, the Carrowmore Megalithic Cemetery in County Sligo, and the Fairy Castle. There's a great walk up there in the Dublin Mountains. If this small overview of some of the mythology and legends of Ireland has kind of piqued your interest a little bit, don't forget that you can visit the show notes. On there, I've got a map that is kind of marked with these locations, so you can have an idea of where in Ireland you can have these mythological encounters, if you will. And I also have a list of some of my favorite books of Irish legend and mythology. There are a few that are terrific for reading to children. A Pot of Gold, which was a treasury of stories and poetry in Blarney, is one that I read to my daughters when they were young. And there's also the Field Guide to Irish Fairies, which is my youngest daughter's. It's one of her favorite. I don't want to call it a book because it's more like a pamphlet, but it really does tell you about every single variety of Irish fairy there is. And I also have a few more listed. So if you want to dig in a little deeper, definitely go into the show notes and check those out. All of the books that I list are available on Amazon right now. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can't leave a review on your podcast app, visit the Ireland Family Vacations page on Facebook and leave a review there, or visit Trustpilot at irelandfamilyvacations.com/trust. And say something nice. I would really appreciate it. If you have questions or comments, you can always email me, Jody, Jody, at irelandfamilyvacations.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Until next time, slán go fóill.